They came at dawn, not in warships or fleets of steel, but in rivers of light that painted the sky like living auroras. Across every continent, people looked up from their cities, their farms, their oceans, and saw the heavens unfold. 1,000 radiant forms drifted through the clouds, their silhouettes vast and shimmering, each one crowned with fire that spoke in harmonics rather than words. They called themselves the Aurelian Dominion. Their voices arrived before their bodies, resonating through every frequency, vibrating the bones of the world. Radio screamed, satellites melted into silence, and even heartbeats seemed to align with their rhythm. The message was simple, repeated in every language known and unknown. We returned to reclaim our children. At first, humanity didn't panic. They marveled. Every religion found prophecy fulfilled. Every skeptic stood silent. For the first time in recorded history, all of Earth looked skyward together. Some wept, some knelt, some simply whispered, "The gods have come," and in orbit, above the clouds, a fleet of light arranged itself into a perfect circle over the planet, an artificial halo spanning half a continent. When the Aurelians finally descended, they did not march. They manifested. Columns of golden flame touched down the ruins of the old world. New York, Beijing, Rome, Lagos, Karachi, each one burning without heat. From them stepped beings not of flesh, but of living plasma shaped in vaguely human outlines. Their eyes shone like small suns. Their armor rippled like liquid glass. They were beautiful, terrifyingly beautiful. In Geneva, world leaders gathered to speak through the United Nations feed, but their microphones were overridden by a soundless transmission. Each delegate screen glowing white until a single form appeared. An Aurelian, wings of radiance spreading across the chamber. "Children of dust," it said, voice like a choir of storms. "You were the spark we left behind when the stars were young. Now we return to guide you. Your wars, your chaos, your hunger, these end today. You will join the Dominion. You will rise beyond mortality." The world fell silent. For an entire day, there was no war, no protest, no sound except awe. Humanity watched as the Aurelians levitated entire cities into the air, purging pollution with a sweep of light. They healed oceans, rebuilt cathedrals, deactivated every nuclear weapon in existence. The news called it the dawn of ascension. But beneath the wonder, there was fear. At the European Particle Research Facility, what was once CERN, Dr. Lena Armitage stared at her monitors, eyes wide as her instruments went haywire. She had been studying the Aurelian signal, the pulse that traveled between their ships, and discovered something impossible. The waveform wasn't alien. It was human. She enhanced the frequency and froze the visual display. The pattern was unmistakable neural resonance. "They're not gods," she whispered. "They're like us. Same frequency, same cognitive structure, only amplified." Her assistant stared at her in disbelief. Then were they? Lena turned to a window where the sky, still, shimmered gold. Old, powerful, but not divine. She paused. "And if they build us once, they might fear what we become." 2 days later, the Aurelians announced the alignment. Every human was to gather before an Aurelian projection for synchronization, a merging of thought, they said, to bring unity and peace. In every city, luminous figures appeared, vast enough to blot out skyscrapers. They raised their hands and spoke. "Kneel, and you shall know eternity." Most did, out of reverence, fear, or awe. Billions knelt before the beings of light. But not everyone. In a buried vault beneath the Atlantic Ocean, a relic of the Cold War known only as Abyssal Base, a coalition of soldiers, scientists, and engineers gathered in the dark. Their leader, General Marcus Havel, watched the synchronized feed with cold eyes. He had fought in wars across 2 continents, lost friends, a conflict humans barely remembered. He knew surrender when he saw it. "They want compliance, not enlightenment," he said. "They strip our weapons, then our will, classic occupation, wrapped in gold." Lena stood beside him, holding a data core glowing faintly blue. "Their light isn't purity. It's code. Look, fractal sequences, quantum symbols, embedded in their speech. They're rewriting our neural signatures. The more people listen, the more their minds align. Marcus clenched his jaw. And if we don't stop them? Lena's answer was quiet. Then we stop being human. Above them, in the stratosphere, the Aurelian flagship, the Eclipsera, hung like a second sun. Inside, the High Seraph, commander of the Dominion fleet, observed Earth through a sea of holographic data. "They are primitive," said one of his lieutenants, voice cold and musical, "yet resistant. Their cognitive field is irregular, chaotic." The Seraph studied the readings, waves of thought, millions of independent frequencies, refusing synchronization. He frowned, an emotion long forgotten among his kind. Chaos or individuality? The lieutenant hesitated. Both. The Seraph's light dimmed slightly. Then the spark remains. 3 days after the alignment began, every broadcast on Earth carried a single live transmission. An Aurelian emissary stood atop the ruins of the old United Nations building, surrounded by kneeling humans. "Rise no more, children," the emissary declared. "Your time of ignorance has ended. You will serve the light eternal." The camera panned across the crowd, millions kneeling in silence. Then, at the edge of the frame, one figure stood. General Marcus Havel. His armor was battered, his face scarred, but his eyes burned with something the Aurelians had forgotten existed. Defiance. He raised his head toward the towering being of light. "We remember who we are." The words echoed, small and human, but they rippled through every frequency on Earth. For a brief second, the Aurelian emissary flinched, their perfect form flickering, light fracturing. Dr. Armitage watched from abyssal base as her instruments spiked. "It's working," she gasped. He disrupted their field with a thought. Above, the halo in the sky wavered. The perfect symmetry of the Aurelian fleet fractured like cracked glass. Billions watched as a divine veneer faltered. And for the first time, the gods hesitated. That night, humanity remembered fear and hope in equal measure. The streets of every city glowed with a faint shimmer of Aurelian light. But somewhere beneath, the pulse of Earth's heart beat louder. Underground networks formed. Scientists decoded. Soldiers whispered. And across the digital void, a signal began to spread. An encrypted phrase shared in silence. "We are not their children." Dr. Armitage stood before the flickering screens, her voice steady. "They came to claim obedience. We'll give them memory instead, the truth of what we were and what we become." The base hummed as generators roared to life, ancient systems booting up to send a single pulse toward orbit. In the sky, the Aurelian ships realigned, serene, divine, radiant. But deep inside their data streams, a human voice whispered to their perfect light, "We are awake." The Aurelians, for all their glory, paused. And far above Earth, amid the stars they once called their dominion, the High Seraph spoke 3 quiet words to his kind. "They remember us." Earth had never been quieter. The skies still shimmered gold from the Aurelians' halo, their vast ships encircling the planet like a divine crown. Cities functioned under their gaze, obedient and silent, bathed in their light of order. They called it peace. But peace born from submission is only a slower kind of war. Every human thought was monitored by radiant drones that hovered like angels above every street. Every spoken word was analyzed, every deviation corrected. In less than a week, 80% of humanity had been synchronized into the Dominion's thought field. They walked with blank serenity, eyes faintly glowing with Aurelian light. The remaining few, those whose minds resisted, were labeled asynchronous, dangerous, diseased. They went underground. Far beneath the Atlantic, abyssal base roared with life. Its metallic corridors trembled as generators powered up ancient systems, screens flickering with half-forbidden symbols. Dr. Lena Armitage stood before a floating hologram of DNA spirals, shimmering in pulses of light and data. Her fingers danced across the console. "Every Aurelian frequency I recorded, it matches something buried in our genome. They built us in their image, but they left a firewall alock." General Marcus Havel leaned against the bulkhead, rifle slung across his back. "Then find the key." "I think we already have." Lena zoomed in on the double helix, revealing a sequence that glowed faintly when the Aurelian signal was played. "It's not code, it's language." Havel frowned. "Language." She nodded. A quantum linguistic pattern, energy woven into DNA. They use it to shape thought. But in us, it's unstable, wild. That's why they fear us. We evolved past their control. The general's eyes narrowed. Can it be weaponized? Lena hesitated. No, but it can be awakened. Across the world, whispers spread through encrypted networks. The Continuum. A hidden alliance of scientists, soldiers, and digital ghosts working in the shadows. Their plan was audacious. Use human consciousness to hack the Aurelian field itself. Every human mind carried fragments of their creator's power. United, those fragments would become something the gods themselves have forgotten. Evolution. From caves in Afghanistan to orbital bunkers in Alaska, from flooded Tokyo to the shattered ruins of Paris. People linked through stolen Aurelian nodes, connecting thought to thought through light, data, and will. Lena became their voice. Her message was transmitted across every underground frequency. They call us broken, but our chaos is creation. Our defiance is freedom. Connect, not through obedience, but through choice. And one by one, lights began to appear across the darkened earth. Inside the Eclipsera, the Aurelian flagship, alarms whispered in harmonic tones. The High Seraph stood before an ocean of data, his calm face fracturing as anomalies spread through the network. Report, he ordered. A subordinate's voice trembled. Non-aligned frequencies, multiplying exponentially. Origin, human consciousness fields. They are connecting without our guidance. Impossible. Mortals cannot sustain the continuum. Yet they are. Their neural patterns are. The subordinate hesitated, eyes widening, singing. The seraph turned sharply, his light dimming. Show me. The screen bloomed with images of humanity linked by streams of living light. Workers, children, soldiers, thinkers, all glowing faintly blue, harmonizing without the Dominion's control. They remember the ancient code, whispered the seraph. They're waking the spark. Back on Earth, Lena's lab became a storm of light. The Continuum's link deepened, minds touching across continents, thoughts merging and amplifying. For the first time in history, humanity felt united. They could sense one another. Fear, love, rage, purpose, all blending into a single luminous tide. Lena stood at the center, trembling as the power surged through her. They think unity means control, she whispered. We'll show them it means choice. Marcus stood beside her, his hand tightening on her shoulder as energy waves bent reality around them. Objects floated. Screens flickered. The walls hummed with something almost divine. A presence entered the lab, not physical, but mental. The Aurelian overseer, projected as a being of molten gold, appeared before them. You are playing with eternity, it said, voice echoing across dimensions. You cannot command the light. Lena stepped forward, eyes burning with blue fire. We're not commanding it. We're remembering it. She raised her hand, and for the first time, the light obeyed her. The overseer froze as its own radiant aura bent, warping toward her like metal to a magnet. How? It gasped. Lena's voice was calm, deadly. Because it's ours too. The chamber exploded in energy. The overseer's form shattered into shards of light that scattered to the walls like fireflies. For a heartbeat, the base fell silent. Then the instruments came alive, readings off the scale. The human continuum had reached critical mass. Every unlinked human on Earth suddenly felt something, a whisper in their minds, not words, but warmth, awareness, connection. You are not alone. And across the heavens, the Aurelian halo flickered. For the first time since their arrival, their perfect geometry trembled. In the vast silence of space, the High Seraph stared down at Earth, where billions of tiny lights shimmered like stars reborn. He whispered the word their kind had not spoken in eons, a word once feared, now inevitable. Ascension. The sky caught fire. It began with a sound, a low, harmonic tremor that rippled across the atmosphere, like a divine chord plucked by unseen hands. Then the clouds ignited. Golden storms rolled across continents as the Aurelians descended in fury, their radiant fleets filling the heavens like burning suns. They had seen Continuum, humanity's awakening, and they feared it. The Dominion declared humanity unstable, their light corrupted. The verdict, purification. From orbit, the Aurelian Armada unleashed their wrath. Oceans boiled, deserts turned to glass. Cities evaporated under waves of plasma. And yet, amid the destruction, something impossible happened. Humanity fought back. In the ruins of New York, a squad of soldiers, ordinary men and women, moved through a city wreathed in flame. Above them, an Aurelian war form, vast and angelic, descended like a star of judgment. The soldiers raised no weapons. Instead, their eyes burned with blue light. "Continuum link. Full sync," said Captain Reese over the comms. Their minds merged through the neural field, and in that instant, they moved as one. 1,000 human instincts condensed into a single thought. They reached out, and the Aurelian beam of annihilation curved away, twisting into a spiral of harmless light. Gasps echoed across every comm channel. "We deflected it," Reese breathed. "We redirected a god's weapon." For the first time in millennia, the Aurelians hesitated. Across the world, miracles multiplied. In the shattered plains of Siberia, engineers rewired the energy cores of fallen Aurelian drones, bending their plasma systems into human-compatible reactors. In Mumbai, a child raised her hands against a descending Aurelian enforcer, and the beam meant to vaporize her simply froze midair. Its photons locked in place by her fear turned into focus. Everywhere, humans tapped into something ancient, something buried within their creation. They were no longer merely surviving. They were evolving, and the continuum sang louder. Deep underground, in abyssal base, Lena Armitage stood surrounded by a storm of data. The continuum's frequencies pulsed like a heartbeat around her. She could feel them, billions of human minds linked in defiance. General Havel stood beside her, battered but unbroken. "You've turned thought into a weapon," he said. Lena shook her head. "Not a weapon, a mirror." He frowned. "Explain." She turned to the hologram of Earth, glowing blue beneath the Aurelian halo. "They wanted us to be perfect, predictable, but perfection is death. Chaos, emotion, that's life. They forgot that." Havel smirked. "Then let's remind them." In orbit, the high seraph gathered the full might of the Dominion. The Eclipser's wings unfolded, stretching for miles, each one inscribed with runes of cosmic law. The Aurelians began to chant, their voices merging into a song of uncreation. "Return to silence," the seraph intoned. "Return to your origin." The beam they unleashed was unlike anything seen before, a torrent of pure radiance that split the sky, erasing everything in its path. But as it fell toward Earth, the continuum answered. Billions of human voices, bound in unity, rose as one. Their collective thought surged upward, forming a shield of blue-white light, willpower given form. The two forces met in the stratosphere, colliding in a storm that shook the planet. Lightning carved symbols into the clouds. Mountains quaked. The oceans rose. And in the center of it all, humanity's light held. All across the Aurelian fleet, systems began to fail. Their perfect algorithms glitched. Their radiant armor flickered. The gods of light were unraveling under the weight of something they had forgotten. Belief. A young Aurelian, his form trembling with uncertainty, turned to his commander. "They're not supposed to do this. They're changing us." The commander's tone cracked. "Hold the line." The seraph commands. But his words faltered through the battle's psychic haze. He felt humanity, their rage, their compassion, their relentless will to survive. It wasn't chaos. It was purpose. And for the first time in ages, an Aurelian understood. "They are what we once were," he whispered, above the burning earth. The high seraph realized the truth. Every human thought, every emotion, was rewriting the Dominion's very fabric. The continuum of light that had once ruled galaxies was now bending toward its own creation. The seraph roared, his voice shattering stars. "You dare ascend beyond your makers?" Lena's voice echoed to the global continuum, calm and certain. "We didn't ascend. We remembered." At her command, the continuum focused, billions of human minds directing their collective will at the Aurelian's command core. The beam of light reversed direction, surging back toward the heavens. The Aurelian flagship trembled as the tide turned. The War of Light had begun as annihilation. It ended as revelation. The Aurelians, their forms breaking apart, stared down at Earth not with hatred, but awe. In humanity, they saw something beyond design, beyond control, beyond divinity itself. They create meaning from chaos, one whispered. And as their fleets burned, some Aurelians refused to continue the slaughter. Their golden wings dimmed, folding in surrender. Others fell to earth, not as conquerors, but as pilgrims. In the silence after the storm, Lena stood amid the ruins of Abyssal Base, watching auroras dance across the entire sky. Humanity had done the impossible. Not defeated gods, but made them believe again. General Havel stepped beside her, his voice soft. "So what now?" Lena smiled faintly. "Now they'll listen." And above them, the stars shone brighter than ever before, as if the universe itself was waiting to hear what humanity would say next. The storm of light faded. For the first time since their arrival, the skies of Earth were still. The golden halo that had once crowned a planet lay broken, its radiant arcs falling like dying comets into the oceans. The Aurelian fleet, those once immortal vessels of divinity, hung silent and dark above the clouds, their brilliance dimmed to ash. From the ground, humanity looked upward, not in fear, but in wonder. They had survived the wrath of gods. And more than that, they had changed them. Dr. Lena Armitage stood at the edge of the shattered Atlantic platform, wind tearing through her coat, the air still humming from the aftershock of Continuum's final surge. Her eyes reflected the dawn, the first true sunrise since the Aurelians came. Behind her, General Marcus Havel limped across the cracked metal walkway. His armor was scorched, his once-iron voice now little more than a rasp. "They've stopped firing," he said. "All of them. Orbit's gone quiet." Lena didn't answer. She could feel it. The Continuum link still pulsed faintly inside her mind, a living heartbeat connecting billions of souls. Humanity's thoughts were no longer bound by the Aurelians' order. They resonated freely, each mind a note in a symphony of will. Then the sky split open one last time. From the remnants of the Aurelian flagship descended a figure, wounded, fractured, its once perfect form flickering between gold and silver. The High Seraph, the last voice of the Dominion. He descended without light, without glory, only silence. When his feet touched earth, the ground did not tremble. The wind simply stopped, as if the world itself was listening. "Child of dust," the Seraph said softly, his tone stripped of arrogance. "You have undone eternity." Lena met his gaze, unflinching. "No, we reminded it what eternity meant." The Seraph tilted his head, the fading glow of his eyes reflecting her. "We built you to serve, to carry the light we could no longer bear. How did you," he faltered, "how did you become more?" Lena stepped forward, the air shimmering faintly around her. "Because we were never your shadows. You gave us thought, and thought questions. You gave us choice, and choice creates. You wanted obedience. But you built the one species that could never stop asking why." The Seraph's form flickered. He bowed his head, not in defeat, but in understanding. "We thought creation was dominion. We forgot it was trust." Above them, the remaining Aurelians descended slowly, their wings dimmed to soft embers. One by one, they landed across the scorched earth, on deserts, mountains, cities, and knelt, their radiant forms folded in humility. Billions of humans watched through broken screens, or with their own eyes through smoky skies, as the impossible happened. The gods knelt to humanity. "Teach us," one of them whispered into the Continuum. "Teach us what we lost." And humanity answered, not with weapons or pride, but with compassion. The Continuum pulsed, and a message spread through both species like the first breath of dawn. "We are all unfinished." Weeks passed. The Aurelians no longer ruled the heavens. They walked among humanity, not as conquerors, but as students. Together, they rebuilt. Cities rose again, not of steel and glass, but of luminous matter born from both technologies. Oceans healed under Aurelian resonance, while human engineers rebalanced the planet's atmosphere with precision they'd once only dreamed of. Lena and Marcus stood together on the edge of the new Geneva Concord, a shining city grown from thought and light. Overhead, Auroras dance where war once raged. Marcus exhaled slowly. You think they'll stay? Lena smiled faintly. They came as gods, but they'll stay as believers. She turned to him, eyes reflecting the dawn. Because belief isn't about power. It's about faith. Faith that something smaller can still hold infinite worth. In orbit, the remnants of the Aurelian fleet were formed, not as weapons, but as monuments. Each ship realigned into constellations that shimmered like living stars. From Earth's surface, people began to notice words written in the night sky, etched in light across the heavens. The children surpassed the stars. And so they had. Humanity no longer looked to the gods for salvation. They looked inward, and found it there all along. Lena stood alone beneath the aurora one final time, recording her last transmission to the continuum. If anyone ever asks how it ended, she said quietly, tell them this. They came to claim our souls, and we showed them their own. They left as believers, not in gods, but in what we are capable of becoming. The wind caught her hair, carrying her words across the glowing horizon. Behind her, children laughed, human and Aurelian together, chasing fragments of light that drifted like snow. And as the sun rose over a healed world, the narration faded into a single, final truth. They arrived as gods, but left as believers of humanity.